It's time for Stars on Sports,
a podcast radio show dedicated to sharing stories about our athletic program at Lansing Community College.
LCC Athletics has a strong tradition.
23 national championship wins.
Over 170 All-Americans.
19 MCCAA All-Sports trophies.
Stars on Sports will introduce you to individuals that have contributed to our program's success and give you the backstory on what it takes to develop it.
We'll also dive into and break down the topics and issues facing athletic departments across the nation and right here at LCC.
This is Stars on Sports. Hello and welcome to another episode of Stars on Sports. I am joined by our assistant AD baseball coach, Stephen Cutter. And today, Stephen, we'll be talking about Lovable Losers, which is kind of ironic because of where we're at in our academic year. And even listening to our intro, we're going to have to change that because we have just accomplished or earned our 24th national championship. So I don't know why that topic has been a hot topic in our office over the last week, but it seems like we've been talking about lovable losers. Well, that too, both. Okay. But it's the postseason. But for us, lovable losers isn't what our fall has been like, but it does seem to be a topic in our athletic office, and we'll go into further. But as I mentioned, we're coming off our men's team just winning the national championship team. Our women's team is headed to Iowa for their first ever national appearance. Yep. Our volleyball team, yes. And, you know, our softball and baseball teams have had a great fall competing at a high level against other strong 2- and 4-year institutions. So it's the exact opposite of our office, Lovable losing. But for some reason,
everybody loves a good underdog story, right?
That's right.
I think that's where it comes from.
Partly, and we haven't been the underdog. We might be the underdog in going into some of the postseason play, but we usually have a target on our back. Listening to our intro, the number of national championships, the number of all sports trophies, the success we've just talked about even this fall. And there's even, we feel, they're the bias towards winners. People don't, root for them or even against them, that there is this natural societal thing rooting for underdogs or lovable losers. And
there's definitely a cost to winning, and winning is a choice.
It is, and a difficult choice for most. That's why it is, tough to achieve or consistently achieve. But, when you look at movies, which will be a whole nother podcast of ours, or even other sports teams in the pro level, the team that people like are ones that have had a history of losing. And even I'm guilty of it.
How about the Detroit Lions having fan bases in Los Angeles and all these other places, right? I mean,
perfect.
Huge crowds, and it's because they haven't been good for a long time.
Yep, and the Lions, when I looked this up in preparing, the Chicago Cubs are one that considered to be a lovable loser. When you look at TV, Charlie Brown, and even the Charlie Brown example, it's the field goal. It's a sport example where they pull the ball away from when Lucy does, and he misses the kick. Even me, if I don't have a team involved, like watching postseason MLB baseball, I root for the team that hasn't won the most recent.
Think about like the NCAA men's basketball tournament and how much people love the 5-12 seed matchups and the upsets, and what do they call them? Cinderella,
yeah. And how big it is for those institutions that go on that kind of run. Loyola Chicago a couple years ago, Florida Atlantic, who I just saw yesterday, is now ranked this year. They made a Cinderella run to the Final Four last year, and it's ranked this year. I had a student athlete reach out to me recently and asked what kind of impact did that have on a college when you have that kind of run. And there's a lot of data out there had significant increased applications for enrollment, significant increase in merchandise selling.
We see it here.
Yes, we do. And that's what she was asking about, in the increased media coverage. So that underdog story, or even that story where you do make a long run, is very positive for your institution. Last spring when both our baseball and softball team made the College World Series, the media jumped on it and was covering both every day. Last week, our volleyball and cross country teams were getting articles, which had been tougher to do with fall in this area in high school and Michigan State coverage. So success really does help with the media coverage and help with recruiting, as we've talked about before. But it still intrigues me why our society then so much rallies behind that underdog, that Cinderella, that loser. Is it back to your point earlier about being jealous, or they don't, they're comfortable being average?
I don't know that there's enough studies to really understand why America pulls for the underdog all the time, but in the same way, it's interesting to look at the really successful organizations, and it doesn't really matter what sport it is, but you look at them and they're very much disliked. And we were talking about college basketball earlier, and you think about like a program like Duke or somebody like that, and how many people just despise a program like that. And the same thing happens in baseball with somebody like the New York Yankees. And it continues in football with programs like the New England Patriots when they had their long run. How many people didn't like the Patriots? And it happens in football, in college football, with Alabama. And it just keeps going.
You're right. I didn't even think of that, but
so much success, and then that people just don't like. It's just too much success.
Yeah, you're right. Those are perfect examples of society hating teams that have been successful on a consistent basis, and how those teams that are successful, will call them America's team, but the rest of America is rooting against them.
Dallas Cowboys.
Yeah, Cowboys, because they were successful. They won championships. Right. So. And that's our goal at LCC, to win championships in the classroom and on the playing field. And as you and I have talked, I try and
Jeff Gordon
NASCAR, Dale Earnhardt. No, interesting. Yeah, every sport has one, and it's usually that one that has consistently won, and how much other people rally against them, and even the media plays into that. Well, whether their own media supports them or the rest of the media tries to gang up on them and bring them down. Yeah, I mean, you see, allegations or just excuses or other things that why they do, and even on the other side of losing, why are they losing? Why do we like losers? Are they doing what they should to be successful? And if not, why are we rooting for them? Is it bad luck? Is it again, reading why some people have difficult, and I've been in districts where they've struggled to succeed, and some of it's impulsive decision or using the get rich quick model, and not trying to sustain something over time because you're desperate. You've lost a lot. You try and change things quickly, and we both know a culture takes time to build. Always that cliche of Rome wasn't built in a day. Stacking bricks is one of your things that you like to do. So it's interesting that people like lovable losers, yet are they doing the things they need to do to be successful? And we get mad at those teams that are, and I think we're in a similar boat too. Even you even wonder if it impacts postseason awards or such, that people want to see different teams represented or see other people get recognition and notice. And I agree with that, but we are competing for championships, and usually, just like another cliche, the cream rises to the top, and and when you bring up March Madness, it's a one-game event. It could be the team with the best momentum or the team with the best matchup, and in postseason in some pro sports where they do a series, I believe that those, the best team usually does win those. So, have you experienced any of that even, here at LCC or
with losing or winning?
With just like a target on your bias, back, how that is treated differently than, or even, those programs that you've identified, talking to some of our coaches, when you see a program that is struggling, you try and learn what they're doing so you don't repeat it or what not to do. I mean, I've had a couple of coaches here, we don't want to do that, or we want to be successful. And it starts, we're, have a good support of our college. You brought up Michigan football right now going through some of the allegations they're going through, and it's almost helped them in one sense that it seems to have aligned their college where their whole administration is on the same page where it wasn't heading into this season. So I think that talks a little bit about culture that some of these teams, because some of this can break that. If you're not on the same page, then it'll probably tear it apart. And you'll go down the avenue of failing. Where if you have a culture of unity in that, it'll help you be stronger and probably even be more successful. And you have to be, because one of my favorite things that educational athletic teaches us is how to handle adversity and handle it in a controlled setting, because you're going to have adversity in all facets of your life. So why not practice it during a game and learn how to handle that? So the good teams learn how to handle adversity and fight through it. And we've talked about consistency before, perseverance. Resilient was my one word 10 months ago. It's crazy. As we talk about this podcast, I'm gonna have to come up with a new word for the new year. Not that I go by words, but what's your experience with having a target? I mean, you coach a top 5 program, and do you see differently? We've talked about how other teams act, even, like when we do get beat, it's like they won a national championship, and sportsmanship managing can be a little tough. So, and our kids, have to learn that, like, act like they've been there before, and hopefully they have. So
to some degree, we still want them to experience the joy, because the winning or the success just doesn't come very easily. So when they do have success, they're going to celebrate that piece of it, whether it's in a moment or whatever it is. But I think, to put it simply, from my perspective or our team's perspective, and really it probably comes down to all those things that you just talked about. But we as a coaching staff have been treated immensely different after year 1. So we're into year 3 now. We've been treated completely different than we were initially when we started coaching here. So, and so that, I think that really sums it up. So when you ask our experiences, it's not something that bothers us. It's more or less just fuel for continuing on, and part of that whatever process you talk about, whether it's lovable losers or winning, or however you want to label it. It's part of the process. So
and interesting, because our environment is a competitive nature, so it would seem like everyone wants to win, which everyone, I think, does want to win. It's more, do they want to prepare to win or have the will to win? So it doesn't surprise me. I've been in this business a long time, where there's certain teams out there, and I'm not at any level, all levels, that are like treated differently because they might not have the resource. There could be a number of reasons why a team is not successful. Right. And we've seen a lot of good coaches have bad records because of certain things. Over time, you could see, you're right, you would disagree with that statement. But you know what I'm saying? A good coach could have a bad season. But, like one of the things, like John Wood, and I would consider one of the most successful or best coaches in history. They talk about how he taught kids how to tie a shoe in the first day of practice. Details, but he didn't win his first national championship until middle of his career, and then he went on a nice run. So was he a bad coach for the first 10 or 11 years, right, or did it just take time to build it, or was it luck or other things? I don't know. But what I'm saying is, back to the teams we talk about, these dynasties that win pretty regularly. Even the New England Patriots, they haven't won it every year the last 23 years. They've won 6, 7, or 8 of them. So you still don't have success. There's other ways to measure success, but those other teams gunning for you are could be mad, could be jealous, could be a lot of factors, and the good ones work hard or emulate you. I mean, that's what I look at. If I see a good team, I'm going to go in there and try and see what they're doing that maybe I can learn from. And I know you have that same philosophy, but
the winning piece is tough because it's once you see a organization start winning, then you just what you said, you've got people that are chasing after you or that organization trying to catch up. And then you also have the piece that plays in that we kind of talk about in our program quite a bit, which is complacency. So, if you're handed $1,000 every day, pretty soon you get pretty complacent with your money just because it's coming in. If you're winning, you get pretty complacent with the winning piece, and you just expect to win, and your processes start failing because complacency is sunk in. And that's what you see in sports more often than not. You see really good teams show up to a field. They might be the best team, the biggest team, the fastest team, the tallest, whatever sport it is. And you see this at the high school and college level, quite a bit. And then they're playing maybe what would be considered an inferior opponent, and they get whipped that day just because they don't show up.
Yep.
And you see that happen all the time, and that's what complacency is. You just expect to be able to roll the balls out and win, or whatever it's going to be, and that's why winning is so tough, because you can't let that sink in. And the teams that can do it consistently, those are the ones that are special because they're beating the curve.
You're reading my notes over here. No. That's exactly what I have about the joy in a dynasty and why we hate dynasties, because they've found a way to not have those hiccups or those games. And you might have it throughout the season in a
Chicago Bulls
middle of the season game, but I think that's why we get mad at them, because they've found a way to not have that let down, and they continue to, because back to your $1,000 example is the desire. I mean, like Tom Brady used to say, what's your favorite championship? The next one. It's that desire of looking forward, and you to be normal, complacent, or your mind gets complacent, or your team can get complacent. That's why I think another factor where we get mad at these dynasties, because they figured out a way not to, their culture, and it's hard to enjoy. You've experienced and have talked about that the pressure sometimes is a lot when you have to win continuously, that it's almost relief instead of joy. But I think the good teams that do win that and have that dynasty find a way to celebrate that moment and have that joy, because that's a huge part of success, is being able to experience that happiness that with a team or an individual. You still have a network of people that have helped you be successful to share it with and to recognize. So I think that is true in a dynasty, that that consistency that makes people mad, because that is not easy. And that's why they're very rare in our society. But we've talked about how certain programs are known for certain sports, even because that sport has found a way to develop it. Fortunately, here at LCC, all our sports are pretty competitive and successful, and that's what excites me the most. And why we emphasize the all sports trophy. And taking that to a national level would be a goal of ours. But to many, they don't want to do the work, and they want to sit back and criticize those that are doing it, because they know they're going to have to go out there and compete against them, and that's not fun. That's not fair, and it's not even good for either team if it's a uneven matchup. But back to our original premise, it still shocks me, excuse me, that society still loves that lovable loser over that dynasty.
Yeah, it's a larger percentage that loves the lovable losers, but there's still a large percentage that appreciates the excellence and that consistency. We kind of say is a superpower, and when you can have that consistency, that's where you start seeing it.
Go ahead, Journey.
So I was going to comment, because you guys are talking about the lovable loser. I thought about Kobe Bryant in the Olympics and how they talked about how all the guys went out to party, and then when they came back from partying, Kobe Bryant had his gym bag going into the gym, And they're like, what are you doing? He said, this is my regular workout. I get up at 4 a.m. and work out. And he had that winning mentality.
And that's what it looks like.
Yeah. And some people were jealous of it or didn't want to have it. And he had it.
It's not the majority. It's the minority that are actually doing it.
And I wasn't a big Kobe fan when he was in because I wasn't a Lakers fan. But the more I study and learn about him in my position, I admire his desire, his workout, his willingness to learn and try and he talked to a lot of players on the court asking them what they did to be better, and then he would go back and emulate it. So he's a perfect example of a person that was at the top for a long time, that the people that liked him loved him, and a lot of people that were didn't want to work as hard as he did, like, what's he doing that for? And you bring up a good point that ties into that the dynasties do get their share of bandwagon fans. There are a lot of people that want to be associated with a winner, which is different than working toward being a winner. But you mentioned percentages that the majority like the lovable loser, but the teams we mentioned also have more fans than just the Dallas Cowboys, the Dallas area, the New England Patriots, the Boston area, because fans across the country with them winning want to jump on that bandwagon, wear their clothes, say I'm a fan of those. And you see it at all levels, even high school or the college level of, even you mentioned Duke, or that have more fans than just went to Duke because of the success they have and people wanting to be a part of it.
Yeah.
So it fits right into our sport, that it's like the opposite paradigm, where it's a small world yet it's a big world, where there's lovable losers but people love a dynasty. So that seems to be exactly what the sports world asks, and this topic of lovable losers is no different than that.
Yeah, I think I was reading about a couple studies with social media, because social media is such a large impact on our student athletes. It's enormous, and you've got to kind of understand how to balance it and how to teach the kind of the do's and don'ts of it. And with social media, if you look, it tends to lean a little more towards the underdog or the lovable loser story than it does to the winning story. And they brought out many points of social media and how it lays that way, and how the response is, whether depending on what platform it is, whether you call it likes or whatever it might be, they get a lot more percentages of those likes if it's the lovable loser story that's coming out versus somebody that's winning and whatever it might be. And that's a trend that's pretty interesting to see.
It will be interesting, especially as we see how much social media influences societal decisions nowadays. As we even talk about sports, how social media is influencing decisions, and it's not just sports. Again, when I was looking up lovable losers, they talked about romantic comedies, how they want the underdog guy to get the girl at the end.
Yeah.
How society roots for those and likes following romantic comedies. But the opposite is true even with like the Marvels, how they want the powerful hero to win too. Okay. So you see both, and we see both in our world, and we're running out of time. So I'd just like to conclude and be thankful here at LCC that due to a lot of support and a lot of hard work by our coaches and student athletes, that we have had our share of success. And again, would like to congratulate our men's cross country team on winning the national championship this fall, and all our teams, but even another shout out for our volleyball team for winning the district and the league and going into the national championship tournament for I think they'll have a nice showing there.
First time in
school history. Yeah. So thankfully we haven't had a lovable losing fall. Yep. We've had a great fall, and we'll continue that into the winter and the spring. And so until next time, go Stars. Stars on Sports is recorded live at the WLNZ studios. Engineering and production assistance are provided by Didalian Lowry. You can listen to this episode and other episodes of Stars on Sports on demand at lccconnect.org. To find more information about our athletic program, visit lccstars.com. Thanks for listening. Go Stars!